Alrighty, welcome to this HFDL read broadcast of 100 to 0 versus the Rampaging Rabbits. I'm Henergy, joined by Emitino, and
Howdy.
here we are.
Yeah, here we are indeed. This is going to be my first cast, so bear with me if I do a little bit poorly, but I've casted for a couple different games and organizations in the past, so I at least have, you know, some sort of experience. But I'm
Very
excited
cool.
to I'm excited to get into this for sure. I've been getting into Smite a lot more over the past few months, over the past year, and wanted to try my hand at it, so I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Excellent. Right off the bat, we've got the Raven ban coming through. Definitely since his buff, I think he's been kind of at that must pick or must ban status. And on the other side, we've got the Medusa ban, which I have to imagine is a targeted ban since I don't think she's particularly strong in this meta.
Hmm. Right. I don't know. It depends on how well you can play her, really. And it depends, of course, on who you're playing against as well. Some people have a lot of success with just the rundown burst, and just not letting their lane opponent breathe. Other times they just want to play it safe and hold that ult until it's time to get a really big team fight going. So it really just depends. The ban here, I kind of like the ban, just
That's
because I
fair.
don't like going against her personally.
Hey, that's good a reason as any.
Yeah.
We've got the Cabrakan coming through, which is most definitely a targeted ban towards Optic because he loves playing that Cabrakan solo. We've got a Hachiman ban, which kind of the same story as Medusa for me. That's got to be a targeted ban. Um, and then
Assume so
Kali,
too. Mhm. Mhm.
that's pretty standard fare. A lot of
Mhm.
auto attacker assassins getting banned out. We
Mhm.
see that a lot. And then Geb ban. Um, Geb's never particularly overpowered, but he feels like just one of those characters you hate to see on the enemy team.
Sure, especially when they know what they're doing.
Mm,
Of like a rock hard band, no pun intended. Like 2 patches ago, almost every single game, ranked and in competitive leagues, you'd see him banned just to get the ult out of there, to get the cleanse out of there. But not so much anymore. So this just might be one of those things. Again, maybe a target, maybe just making sure they don't have that sort of kit on the enemy team. Either way, pretty good. A good get can be really annoying.
absolutely. Yeah, just providing all that extra shielding and just CC for the team is invaluable.
Absolutely.
And it looks like we've got the Ganesh pick coming through. Speaking of peel and CC,
Hmm.
there's a lot of it coming out of the Ganesh. On the other side, we've got, what is that, Chernabog and Nuwa.
Mm.
So a lot of global presence coming out from the Rabbits early.
Yeah, that new WA damage, depending on the build, of course, it will take some time to get online, of course, up until probably the later in the game. But the damage coming from new WA is going to be invaluable. It could help take lane pressure off. It could help stop a potential gank. There's plenty that I could do. So um, it just is a matter of how well they do in the laning phase, because sometimes getting behind early, just it won't even matter if you make it to end game.
Very true. Very true. On the other side, we've got the Poseidon and the King Arthur. King Arthur's, I mean, he's pretty much always good in the solo lane, but I think the recent meta's kind of shifted to favor him even more. Just
Absolutely.
generally speaking, a tanky bully. And then we've got Poseidon, also seeing a bit of a resurgence here. And a lot of objective secure coming out between them, between
Hmm.
the Ganesh and the Poseidon. And then now we've got a Sylvanas pick. Now this one's interesting for Rabbits because they've also flexed the Sylvanas over into the solo lane.
Hmm.
So we can't definitively say that this is a support pick.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a solo pick, especially with King Arthur. Just getting the extra range against him, especially if they decide to go a little bit attack speed tank. It could be a nuisance, but I think King Arthur is going to be a lot more invaluable when it comes to end game, especially if Sylvanas, if they do go into solo lane, doesn't build, like your standard solo build. So I assume it's probably going to be a support pick, in which case it's actually a pretty decent pick. Sylvanas Chernabog in duo lane can be a pretty tough matchup. Of course, unless we see who they pick as the ADC on the other team. You could see an Izanami, you could see Cernunnos, you can see a lot of different gods. Even a Jingwei hasn't been banned out yet. You see really good clear from both teams here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
speaking of the
very clear.
Jingwei ban, there it is.
And there it is, yeah, the Jingwei ban, also a Camazotz ban, which I haven't seen a Camazotz ban in a while, but it kind of makes sense. It's a good person for diving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, 1 second here. On the other side, we got a Bakasura ban and an Athena. Bakasura kind of fitting that vein of auto attack assassins just getting banned, and Athena just generally providing CC. And a lot of, I guess also a good ban to take away considering how global that lineup is.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting one less rotation.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
So. Okay. So I would expect that we'll see probably a jungle pick at the very least. And if we see that Yemoja get locked in, then I guess that means we got a Sylvanas solo on our hands.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised either. Now that I think about it, I can't recall specifically when or where I saw this, but I'm pretty sure I saw a Sylvanas solo, I think last season, invade blue, and they might want to try that again. If this is who I think it is, it could be not even close, but Sylvanas is one of the safer invades on level 1 with his range and his root, so I honestly wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they went for an invade here.
I wouldn't either, and I've been on the receiving end of that from
Mm-hmm.
Optic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still seared into my brain a little bit. On the other side, we've got the Mercury and the Xbalanque getting through. Kind of surprised that Mercury made it through, to be honest. I really
Mm-hmm.
thought that there'd be a Merc ban in place of the Camazotz ban.
Definitely. I would have
Um,
seen
yeah.
either Camazotz or Hachi. Hachi, if you're targeting
Yeah.
specifically their best gods, I guess that's okay. But when you're talking about who's more valuable, especially when it gets to end game, Mercury just outclasses Hachiman in every single way. Um,
Pretty much.
so that's a pretty interesting decision there.
Okay. And Xbalanque kind of had a bit of a resurgence as well. I think that he's a pretty strong character, but he's never really overpowered. On the other side, we see that Cleo get locked in. We tend to see her more going towards that solo lane. And now we just have a bunch of role trading going on. So I guess I'm just going to hold my breath for 30 seconds until this resolves itself.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna see Cleo in the solo, Sylvanas in the jungle, Nuwa going carry. Why not? You know. Um, this is gonna be an interesting game for sure. When it comes to draft, I really do like global ults, especially for hunters, and Chernobog's really strong, so I don't want to give them the win just because of Chernobog, but overall, like the silence with Ganesh and the CC and the peel, and then you have all the movement and the damage from King Arthur and Poseidon, and of course, Xbalanque, really, really good carry, and then Mercury just hits really hard from the beginning, so I'm gonna have to give it to, who's on, it's 0 to 100, 100, right, on the left?
Yes, it is 0
Okay.
to 100.
Still kind of figuring out how this all works, but I'm definitely going to have to give them the draft win here. The team just looks a lot more well-rounded, and of course, if Sylvanas doesn't build as he should in solo, which would kind of be a waste of his abilities in my opinion, then yeah, it's going to be a really tough end game for them, the Rabbats.
Yeah, the Sylvanas is going to have to get off to a good start, or at the very least, not die early.
Yeah.
Um, I figure if the Sylvanas can make it past the first probably 6 or 7 levels without falling behind, then I think they're probably in good shape come the late game.
Right.
Um, yeah, I would have to agree. I do like the draft from 0 to 100 a little bit more. I think that their ults synergize just a little bit better as well.
Hmm.
Uh, Especially the Ganesh into the Kraken. I feel like that's just some of the easiest setup you could generate for
Absolutely. Silence them, put the pool underneath their feet, and profit. Really, that's all you
profit.
got to do.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see how good the execution is here.
hmm There's a lot of things that Ganesh can silence in the middle of too, so I'm fairly certain he can silence Chernobog ult while it's still, or not ult, but dash while it's happening, Cleo dash while it's in the middle of it. There's plenty that he can completely interrupt and just throw off the momentum of like any potential momentum that Rabbats have in a team fight or otherwise. So the Ganesh might be the most important pick for them here, honestly.
Yeah, that's a really, really good way to look at it. Um, Now, the one concern here that I would have is the Umoja pick actually will seal off almost all of the team on 0 to 100. So if they get caught in a choke point and they don't have a Phantom Shell, they can get absolutely wrecked by the Umoja.
Mm. And the good news is Shell is pretty standard when it comes to duo lane support relic now, so I don't think it's going to be a matter of if they get it, but when.
Hmm.
So they just got to make sure their Ganesh is getting all the farm that they can, because the sooner they get that Phantom Shell online, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Sylvanas starting that Mannequin Scepter. Couldn't think of the word there for a second. And Tier 1 Magical Focus. So I'm kind of curious to see what his first item's going to be. There's not a lot of healing coming out from the King Arthur, so I don't see a Divine Rune being the play. But I've been wrong before, so...
Sure, and I mean, the
see.
only people that are going to heal, really, you would think would probably be X-Ball, maybe Mercury. Poseidon, from the games that I've seen, he doesn't normally go lifesteal. Maybe against a new Wa, might consider getting an item. But yeah, when it comes to anti-heal, I don't think that's going to be a Sylvanas job. He's already got a little bit of anti-heal in his kit with the... I can't remember the name of it, but whatever those buds do. So I feel like that's going to kind of rest upon Ganesh doing either a Pestilence or a Contagion.
Now, it does look like Sylvanas is positioned for an invade. And will succeed. So, now, he is infected by that Invader's Curse, but he should be able to get out without too much difficulty.
Without a doubt, yeah. It's going to be about the same as if he went for his blue buff and got it. You know, you show up to lane just a little bit late. Or not late, but with a little bit of damage, but basically negligible.
Yeah, nothing that he can't get back just through passive regeneration. Got a pretty early boxing match breaking out here, and actually an early beads from the Xbalanque.
I don't know if he needed to do that. Yeah, I don't think so either. He would have been slowed just a little bit by that last drop, but it wouldn't have mattered. The Umoja already came off. That was really good body blocking against the wall from the Umoja, and the Ganesh wasn't doing his X-Ball any favors either. He was kind of keeping him pinned up there. And a beat from the Chernobog to try and secure the root. Couldn't get it, but a lot of early damage.
A lot of early damage, not quite finding that first blood, and Xbalanque is still level 1, so I'm guessing he must have missed out on a minion there. Maybe he's only got like 1 to go or something.
Yeah, a lot of that pressure that they got onto him early, he's definitely missing a minion or 2. And there he gets to level 2, so it's back to even somewhat. He's still very low compared to their Chernobog. And there's his dash out.
And there's a shell getting popped. I don't know if they needed to happen, but I guess they're trying to play safer rather than sorry, and then I guess that's okay. You don't want to give this team too much of a lead if you can avoid it with an early death.
I'd say that's fair. The only downside is now they're behind not only on farm, but on pressure, and both of their relics have popped. Umoja still has hers, if I'm not mistaken. So this could be really tough for the next 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, they'll have to play pretty careful. The downside, or I guess not the downside, the upside of that is that the Cleo hasn't made any rotations over here yet. With her not having a ton of damage early, it's not super surprising. And now we kind of have a little bit of a reversal with Umoja getting poked out, and
Sylvanas is also struggling really hard there. He's getting hit twice, and now it's going to turn into a 2v2 in solo lane. Interesting. Sylvanas got out a lot easier than I thought he would, and it looks like he secured their blue buff again. So...
Oh, man. Yeah, just a rough start for the King Arthur here. And granted, that'll get... Sylvanas has somewhat of an early advantage over the King Arthur. That'll get a little bit better as the game progresses.
Especially with his starter items. You can already tell he's not going into what a solo laner typically does. And that's going to work for a little bit, but once it gets into the early mid game, you're going to see, unless there are some insane outplays from Rabbats, you're going to see a lot of struggle coming from the Sylvanas to provide that extra, or not extra damage, but to provide that extra protections that his teams need and have that extra health that typically solo laners want.
Very good point. Solo laners definitely do want that. Definitely do want that. We haven't talked much about the mid lane yet. It looks like Nuwa is sort of winning the trade. It looks like she's got a little bit more poke onto the tower than the Poseidon has at this point. And she does have that conduit gem, which means she's going to be clearing slightly better. And we have the first blood coming down onto the Sylvanas. So
sometimes you really underestimate how hard Mannequin just hits. This Mercury's feeling it as well.
Oh man, those ticks. I think he probably needed only one more basic, and that would have been a dead Mercury as well.
I'd say that too. Yeah, whenever you get the Mannequin's ticks on top of the really good dash in and the silence, which ultimately ended up killing Cleo. This might be a double here with the Trinibot chasing as well. An amazing root and hold combo, perfect.
And it looks like over in the solo lane we have an exchange of kills. So Optic falling there to the King Arthur, but taking the King Arthur in turn. So a quick 2 kills for the Sylvanas at just under 5 minutes in, and the first item was in fact a Divine Ruin. So defying all expectations. Yeah. So let's see here. We're now at 5 minutes in even. Ravaging Rabbats has about a 1k gold lead at this point. So nothing. It's not nothing, but it's not a game-ending lead either.
I mean, on average, each player on the other team is going to have a couple wards over you at best, which still are invaluable at every point of the game. But so far, it's going to get a little bit worse. This could be bad for 0 to 100. Now it's about a 1500 deficit, and you're getting to the point where they're starting to out-rotate you, out-pressure you. They need to get online quick, or it's going to end quick, unfortunately.
Yeah, they really do. And unfortunately, that's going to be somewhat difficult to do with 2 kills on the Cleo, 2 on the Sylvanas, and a full Transcendence, and 1 kill on the Chernobog. And a 2-level lead on the Cleo as well. Probably a level and a half over the Mercury.
Yeah, solo, jungle, yeah, it's just tough having that lead, especially when it gets a little bit shorter throughout the game because you're going to be catching up on farm and everything, but it does a little bit to the mental, especially when you've been invaded, like in solo lane, and you've been killed a couple times, one under tower. That's going to really mess with you a little bit, so hopefully they can get into the driver's seat and figure out a way to play from behind. That's a really invaluable skill at this level, so let's see if they can manage that.
Definitely. And I think they can do that. I don't think they need to try too hard to get picks. I think Rabbits tend to play a pretty high-tempo, high-pressure style, so they can probably make the play without having to do too much. Just wait for them to commit and then try and catch them out or follow up on it.
Absolutely. I feel like there was quite a bit of miscommunication from support and carry there. I feel like they could have gotten the frag easily on the X-Ball, but a little bit lucky that he got away. Definitely falling behind by another death there would not have been good for him.
Yeah. It looks like they are finally able to secure the blue, so that's a positive.
That'll be a win. Put that in the W column.
Yeah, put that in the W column. That's a good accomplishment here. Poseidon seems to be about equal with the new Wa at this point, and has the full Charon's coin finished, so that's good. That's a good thing if you're 0 to 100.
Yeah, at about this point, you want to make sure that you're roaming with your mid laner as the support, so you can just give him all the extra help that he needs to build that Charon's coin. The sooner he can get it online and evolved, the better for them.
Absolutely. And it does look like that left-hand tower for Order side is actually going to fall. That is a really quick tower loss. So that's not great if you're X-Ball at this point. You're going to be constantly having to ward that corridor and make sure you're not going to get ganked. Having said that, there's been, except for the one gank, there hasn't been too much jungle attention paid to the left lane, so that might be okay for them.
Yeah, they've kind of been left to their own devices. They're not getting much help. 0 to 100 is not getting much help from their Mercury here. He's kind of been everywhere else on the map except duo lane. That can be a bit negative sometimes. It really just depends on how your duo is doing. Sometimes your jungle doesn't need to come help, but in this case, they definitely could have done with the extra support. And KA is not going to get out of here. Amazing crystal throw out there from the Chernobog to make sure they secure that kill.
Yeah, good ult and rotation from the Chernobog for sure. And they can't really get anything else besides that. None of the major objectives have spawned yet. So I guess just trying to secure some of that jungle farm and contest blues, which is what Sylvanas appears to be doing now.
Looks like it. X-Ball does have a ward in hand and possibly still has, he does have his shard online as well. He wants to make sure that if he's pressing up as deep as he does right now without a tier 1 tower, he needs to place that vision not even up top, more behind him, because he's going to be exposed twice as much as he normally is. And now he's getting burst down by the Cherno. That's got to be the kill with the dash. Very good confirm.
Yeah, just getting a little bit too far forward there. And with there being somewhat of a level and item disparity, yeah, that's just not a fight you want to take without getting some more stacks.
Item disparity, absolutely. He only had 15 online, or maybe a little bit before 15 at the time that 1v1 went off. And of course, Cherno, either before that fight or after, had it fully evolved with that extra damage. Was not a good fight for that X-Ball to take, and unfortunately, he suffered the price.
Yeah. So hopefully that one death is enough, and he learns his lesson not to ever extend again. No. And it looks like we might get a follow-up kill onto the Arthur. He's dropping dangerously low, and Sylvanas is doing some pretty major damage.
This is one thing that happens quite a bit.
Oh!
He gets a kill. It looks like Ganesh was able to help with lockdown there. I don't think X-Ball could have done that alone, and seeing now Ganesh rotating to mid as carry goes back to duo lane, that's definitely what happened there. That's a really big kill for X-Ball. He needed that little spike to catch back up, because this, at the time, Chernobog was 2 levels ahead, an item and a half ahead. So this will definitely help him get Transcendence online, help him get his lane back under control. And one thing I wanted to say too, it was actually an interesting decision there when Rabbats were following Mercury through the jungle. Both Yamoja and Cleo were kind of chasing a kill. I'm surprised that they didn't peel from that, knowing that Mercury being Mercury, he's gonna get away unless you get some really good CC on him. King Arthur was one shot under the tower, and which doesn't exist anymore, but at the time was one shot as well. I'm surprised they didn't just go for a 3v1 in there. Leave the jungler alone, help your solo laner get way ahead, and prevent that deficit that could come in endgame with, of course, King Arthur against Sylvanas.
Oh, and we have a second kill coming in onto the Chernobog. Looks like the Mercury ult did get expended there. Didn't actually hit, but probably still worth it to set that Chernobog back a little bit more.
Yeah, now it looks like X-Ball is almost completely caught up, if not even a little bit ahead. He does have some gold to spend back in the fountain, so of course he's not quite, or no, he just backed and got Aussie. Perfect, yeah, he's online here. Still just a tad behind, but those 2 kills are definitely going to help him get back up here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other cool thing about those two, that's only going to help his passive, the Shibal passive, a little bit more. Just stacking those damage and power buffs.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a Trebuchet pushing down mid, and the Pyro has been dropped. I would imagine that we see some pressure around the Gold Fury fairly soon.
I would have to agree with you there. Sylvanas pushing really aggressively in solo lane still, and it looks like he's about to get the kill too. Pull just a little bit short, really good spin to get out of there by KA. He's struggling really hard. Sylvanas is just gonna dive?
I mean, at this point, he may as well. He's got the full Breastplate of Valor, and he gets healing, so... It does look like he's going to pay for that over-aggression, though, as Mercury picks up the kill. And that's good for Mercury, because he's got the Rage now, so he can start contributing Rage stacks.
Absolutely,
more
and
crit.
KA surviving is massive there. He can finally get a little bit of free farm. He has about half a minute to heal up and get back into lane and get a wave or two, maybe totem, maybe some back camps if he wants to risk it. So that's a really good rotation from the Mercury, helping that solo laner out.
Yeah. And the Mercury was also dipping down in levels a little bit. I think they've still got a little bit of a disparity, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, right now the biggest deficit is still in solo lane, so any sort of help that he can get is going to be a massive help to him. Not only now, but in the end game as well.
And it looks like we get the X-Ball ult and also the Chernobog Aegis. And now a Yamoja ult to kind of separate the fight. I don't know if she necessarily needed to do that there. She probably could have waited. Kraken a little bit off the mark, not going to get any knockups. But Chernobog is going to get a return kill onto the Shibalonke. And a great pull by the Sylvanas. That's probably going to be a dead Poseidon just from tick damage. Yeah.
Really good invade here. It looks like it's going to be a gold rotation now. They have 4 people going to it, and Cleo invading back camps. That's a really good fight there.
Yeah, and this is the right call. They clearly don't have the spacing or the numbers to contest this, and it's going to go down pretty quick with that frenzy getting popped.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Yeah, so now that we're at about 15 minutes, we've just had our first Gold Fury. The gold lead is at about 7,000, so it has ballooned quite a bit from when we last looked and checked in on that. Could we get a look at total ward placement? There we go.
Leo
Actually,
paying the price for being a little bit too aggressive. No! He turns
with
it back
the
on the Mercury.
turnaround.
Amazing route from the Sylvanas to help that Cleo get that double dash on him. Brilliant move. They can get the KA here.
Yeah. And Cleo at this point has the full Soul Eater and Transcendence stacked, so she's going to be absolutely swinging. And a little bit of a misplay there, running into the Yamoja ring. But still, overall, getting a kill onto the previously deathless Mercury has got to feel good. And that's a 3-0 for the Cleo.
Really good comms. I'm sure Ganesha just kept telling his KA to run with Sylvanas right on his heels. Really good communication. Sometimes that happens a lot where you think you're under tower, tower's full health, you got a teammate, you're good. No, you're not. You need to keep going. Trust me, they're gonna die. If they've done it once, they'll do it again. So really good teamwork there. And
we might have another kill going in. Yeah, and that's gonna finish off, tick damage from the ult is gonna finish off the Poseidon, and gonna finish off the Mercury. And it doesn't even look at this point like 0 to 100 is looking for fights. They're just getting dived constantly.
Yeah, that's like hyper aggression you talked about early in the game. Nearly got the pull. That surely would have been another death considering 3 of his teammates were with him as well. Goodness gracious. This Rabbats team is absolutely giving it to him. It's about a 9k lead now. It's going to be looking like a fire giant most likely here.
Yeah. Although, I think they probably, if they were going to do fire, they probably should have rotated a little sooner. I think now with people coming off of their death timers, the window is probably passed.
And they might be thinking that too. They might be going back and getting vision for it, because one more team fight turns into a fire giant easily.
Absolutely.
With how they've been going so far this game. Rabbats have a very comfortable lead. Everybody on the team has at least half an item over their like lane opponent. It's a very good setup so far.
It really is. And at this point, Sylvanas is 3 levels over the King Arthur, has fully finished a first magical defense item and a full second physical defense item. So crits from that Xbalanque not going to be doing that much. It's not game over by any means, but it is very much one team fight away from from at least a Phoenix. Nuwa ulting for Vision. And King Arthur, especially with this King Arthur build, not a lot. And they are going to get the steal. I wonder if that was with the Kraken. Now, can they get out successfully?
I don't believe so. With an Aegis potentially, JD is going to die for it, gets the kill.
It's going to cost him his
beads. It looks like.
And it looks like in the back line, the Ganesh is going to fall, the King Arthur is going to fall as well. Now, granted, you do want the Fire Giant to remain on your carries as much as possible, but it does limit how much value they're going to get out of it if it is only 2 of them.
Leo coming from behind here. This could be a really good pinch on the tower. They have 5 against 2 here. Leo actually gets bursted down. I don't think Rabbats were on the same page there. Potentially, JD just kind of wanted to get in there and see what kind of mayhem he could cause.
Great Mercury ultimate.
Brilliant.
Doesn't look like there was quite enough damage to follow that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really unfortunate beat there from the X-Ball. That's a lot of damage. Nothing worse than popping beads after you're already in the CC. F in the chat.
Yeah. Pour some out for our homie there. So, we were at now roughly an 8k gold lead. If you're 0 to 100, what do you need to do to kind of claw your way back here? With the lead being more substantial than it was early on.
The tough thing about it is, I mean, that Fire Giant really helps. They clawed back about 1.5k back in the gold. They've kind of been playing the way they need to, but it hasn't been working with how hyper-aggressive Rabbats have been. They just need to stay safer. They need a lot more vision. I don't know how the ward count is so far. It's kind of tough to see where the wards are on the map as well, but it's just a matter of making sure you're grouped, because at this point in the game, Rabbats can almost 1v1 anybody on the team with anybody else on theirs. And so even if you have 2, personally for me, 3 people at the very least roaming around together to kind of negate any powerful one person on the other team coming out, that's kind of what they need to do here. They need to group, they need to roam together, they need to get that farm together so that if they do catch up and make it to the win game, they actually stand a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Some pretty low health bars on the side of Rabbits, but I don't think that 0 to 100 quite has the power yet to continue that fight. There's still a level disparity, there's still an item disparity. Looking at net worth here, since we have that up, Chernobog leading the way. Could we get a look at the stat line? Gold and XP are both pretty substantially in favor of Rabbits at this point. Yeah, Chernobog pretty close to hitting level 20, so same with the Nuwa. On the other side, we've got X-Ball being the highest on his team at level 18, so collecting some of those kills. But we really need to see more setup for the Poseidon. I feel like the Poseidon pick hasn't really, not necessarily because of the fault of the Poseidon or anybody, I just don't think they've created as many opportunities for Krakening that they could have.
Yeah, not normally. I would have expected a lot more Kraken setups here too. And I mean, getting the Fire Giant, massive, but there wasn't really any setup to it. It's kind of surprising. Yeah, I agree that they haven't had as much lockdown secure as their comp would kind of indicate. And of course, we're going to get after another Pyro. They're just going to run it down here. I wouldn't be surprised if this Mercury gets out, considering how fast he is and what abilities he has on his kit. But this KA could be in trouble as well.
Yeah, King Arthur's definitely taking a lot of poke, but a lot of return damage coming out from the Mercury and from the King Arthur, and that's going to be another kill onto the Cleo.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was saying too. So long as you can prevent a 1v1, no matter how many people you have roaming with you, at least 2v1, that's really going to help them catch back up here. I feel like JD might have just gone against the grain there, probably a little bit aggressive, maybe no communication, or maybe the communication was, I'm going to get this guy, with no real support there. If that happens a handful more times, this game could get back to relatively even. But this X-Ball is going to get dominated over by the Chernobog Umoja, helping out with a little bit of support there.
Quite a lot of heals coming in, and coming in rapidly. I'm wondering if the Umoja didn't have like a fully stacked benevolence. Yeah, just unfortunate, and that's probably not a fight you need to be taking, especially that far up in the lane.
And I can't still, like, the minimap is hard for me to understand where the wards are, but it looks like there's maybe a ward over there, but not where it should be, considering how this game's going.
Yeah, it looks like they've got just the one ward by the enemy purple buff. And they don't have anything in any of those corridors leading to it, so that Umoja would have been able to sneak up on him pretty effectively.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole point. With how far ahead Rabbats are right now, they can afford to like extend even deeper into the jungle and wrap around to get that pinch on a gank. So they need to make sure, well, 0 to 100 need to make sure that they're warding in every conceivable location that Rabbats could come from, which at this point is basically anywhere on the map. But they have to play it a little bit safer, surely.
Yeah. And Nuwa ulting there for a little bit of damage, but probably more for visibility. Even with great ward coverage, you still want to be able to see some things. And it looks like Poseidon might actually fall. Oh, I stand corrected. Cleo's gonna fall. Getting caught out again without any tanky people nearby.
Right. The thing is, I feel it's strange. Cleo seems to be doing a lot of zoning for objectives, which it's odd to me because she gives a lot of she does a lot of damage to objectives and to enemy gods. Like, that's the whole point. But I think you'd rather have somebody like who's really far ahead in lane, like your solo laner like Sylvanas, or potentially even Umoja. She's even with Ganesh and she can hold her own against at least a couple different enemy gods. But especially when your assassin is going alone as a zoner on a big objective like fire, it's kind of an interesting decision, and I don't know if that's the plan or if that's just what keeps happening.
Yeah, we are dangerously close to the line of not being able to tell whether or not we're getting trolled or not. Now, having said that, Poseidon has hit level 20 and he's finished his Bombas Hammer. So that's going to increase his utility in these fights by quite a lot.
Absolutely. He's going to be able to drop cool in his wave a bunch. And of course, every single time he gets an auto off after an ability, he's going to be 1 second closer to moving super quick and getting away from any potential ganks or chasing down a kill. So that's a really great item for him to get online, especially at a moment like this where fire is about to come back up. It's going to be EFG in under 5 minutes. This is going to be a major... The next two fights, I think, are going to really dictate how this game goes, because 0 to 100 has clawed their way back to at least a sustainable deficit, but really the next fight or two is going to kind of dictate who wins this game. And I feel like if they can get a really cheeky Fire Giant steal, Poseidon ult, that 0 to 100 could definitely win this game. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the phrase "sustainable deficit," and I'm definitely going to be taking it. Yeah, that's a great way of describing kind of the impasse that they're in now. We've got the Nuwa ulting for damage early. That is going to get the Shivalonke Aegis. And the Mercury is going to have to ult out, but might still die to the tick damage there.
Mannequins and the buds, they do it to you.
They'll get you every time. And at this point, I can't imagine that they don't go for fire. The Mercury
really risky considering you just saw his teammate get 3v1 in this lane.
Yeah. Now they are doing something interesting here. I think they might have learned from having the Cleo zone on on her own and having the Sylvanas kind of pair up with her. They're still getting out a lot of ultimates. King Arthur is going to fall.
And they're still short Mercury for another 20 to 30 seconds, and that's a kill on Poseidon. That's huge. Personally, for me, if I was Rabbats, I wouldn't go for fire just yet. I might take a couple towers, even a Phoenix, because who's really going to stop you? But fire here isn't a bad call either. It's really tit for tat. You either get those objectives and then you secure fire a little bit afterwards, or you get fire and make sure you can secure those objectives immediately after. It's really either or. You don't have to do one or the other every time.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. It's not a binary solution. You can do both. And Shibalanka is just going to disintegrate under that Cleo damage.
What's Cleo's first item here? Doesn't even have first item like finished off. I was thinking maybe like mannequins for some reason, and then like mannequins hidden blade, because that did an absolute crap ton of damage to that egg quality tower.
Yeah. And while they were taking Fire Giant, they had this Trebuchet, which was able to take out that tier 2. And they're going to be able to secure this left-hand Phoenix completely uncontested. And now we've just got the middle tower remaining. It does look like they're rotating for it, so it's going to fall pretty rapidly. I would imagine every Phoenix goes down here, short of a miracle play.
Well, they do have everybody up now, thankfully. Sans the Hunter, which in this case isn't the best, but it seems like Poseidon has been getting a lot of damage off for his team too. X-Ball, of course, with the most. But massive ult there. Chernobog is gonna have to get out. There's a shell. KA is chasing. He's got 4 people surrounding him. Manages to get out though. Ganesh low health, trying to provide any sort of help. Chernobog diving in with an ult.
Oh,
and he
is
suffers the
actually gonna get the shutdown. Incredible turnaround kill. Yeah, and that was a great example of the sort of Kraken that we'd hoped we'd see earlier in the game. Knocked up at least 2 people. Great area damage.
Took a lot of pressure off lane, and they went from potentially getting 2 or 3 to only managing to get 1, and they only suffered 1 loss of they only suffered 1 death, which is kind of the best that they can hope for with a turnaround like this. Fire Giant is going to be enhanced next time it comes up in the next few minutes. It's kind of tough here. 0 to 100 is on the path back to a potential victory. They just need to make sure they're sticking together and warding. So far, they're pretty spread out. Of course, X-Ball trying to get rid of those fire waves in the left. But yeah, the next 3 minutes are really going to decide what happens here. 3-man roaming is good here. Sylvanas could be in trouble. Nuwa could be in trouble, depending on how close-knit they stay.
Now, Sylvanas, speaking of Hidden Blade, Sylvanas has elected to go Mannequin's Hidden Blade, so that burst is going to be pretty significant when he decides to commit.
Yeah, and he has Scorching Blink online as well, so you can only imagine his game plan is going to be come up from the side, come up from behind, maybe in a lull in the fight, blink in, ult, profit. And then everybody else is going to be able to compound off of that. That's a really deadly combination. Sylvanas, because it's designed as like a Guardian ult and CC and provide like a little bit of poison, you know, like kind of suggests that the other team don't keep fighting you. But now it's going damage, and it's going to be Hidden Blade attached to it. That's going to be a lot. And one fight could be make or break here for 0 to 100. They do have about 12k gold behind. It's going to be about 13k after this pyro. It's not looking good, but you know, when you get to 30 minutes in, 1 team fight is all it takes. So hopefully 0 to 100 can just group together, get a good pick, and then really that's all they need.
Yeah, as long as they're focusing on the Chernobog, that is going to take out a lot of their safe tower damage, or objective damage. You'll get some of it out of the Nuwa, but not nearly as much as the Chernobog can output.
Right. That was actually an amazing play there from Rabbats to bait the Mercury out from his team buff. Saw creeping, maybe potentially wanting to steal. The whole time Cleo's in the wall. As soon as Mercury engages on that Sylvanas, that's a death sentence for him. It's a really good 2v1 play there.
Okay, and we got the Ganesh ult coming out. Doesn't look like there's any follow-up. Poseidon just a little bit delayed. And there's no fire on the side of Rabbits, so they're not going to have that extra sustain.
This potentially just looks like a distraction. KA gets melted down on a Phoenix line. X-Ball is having a clear fire wave in left. Cleo soloing the Phoenix in left as well. Mid Phoenix goes down. This looks like a right Phoenix into enhanced and then game.
Yeah, and they're playing it pretty. They're not overextending. They're not tanking too many unnecessary tower shots. And yeah, that's gonna fall almost instantly with the help of that trebuchet.
The interesting decision here, and I guess that's part of the game plan because it's happened so consistently over the entire game, is that Cleo is just like the split pusher and the zoner for some reason. And it's worked out about half the time when it comes to zoning, but I mean, when it comes to split pushing, like soloing that Phoenix and left while the rest of the team took the other two, it works. X-Ball's gonna have to go back into Finn Titan. The only way they pull this off, I think Ganesh ult is about to be back up. Poseidon still has his, but they're not gonna have much downtime. They have to pull it off now or it's over.
And they are gonna catch out the Poseidon here. Yeah, Poseidon's gonna die just from a combination of ults.
Mercury with a massive ult. Cleo barely survives. So does Chernobog and Nuwa. That Nuwa ult in the middle of Fire Giant was massive because they might not have had the most vision in the opposing jungle. But I mean, when you have Nuwa ult and that global vision there, that's massive. There's the Phantom Shell coming out. Of course, we predicted that second one. That would have been game for sure had they been caught out in that ultimate, but it's pretty clear this game's going to go to Ravaging Rabbats.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the next couple of kills flow in here. Without their big burst damage of the Kraken, there really isn't much to peel them off of it. We are going to see the Cleo fall, but that is going to be the Titan falling at just over 34 minutes. So if you're 0 to 100, what adjustments do you make going into game 2?
That's really tough. There were issues all over. I think mid lane was about as even as it could have been. And even though, I mean, you went 0-5 as Poseidon, that's nothing. You can't really be upset with that. You got a couple steals. You had a little bit of peel. You did quite a bit of damage. I think the second most damage on your team behind the Hunter. So you can't really be upset with yourself there. As a team, I think they need to focus a little bit more on grouping together. I feel like way too many times, especially say like after a team fight is over, I feel like they got a little bit ahead of the curve and were like, here, I can clear this wave, I can get a little bit of farm, and then I can back and get an item. There were plenty of times where we saw a 2 or a 3v1 gank come in immediately after like a 5v5 team fight because one of the 0 to 100 players had that mindset like, oh, I'll just get this last wave and I'll back, or oh, I'll get this last camp and I'll back. I feel like they need to nip that in the bud. They didn't have a lot of wards coming from their solo or their Hunter. Hunter, it's good to have wards, especially if you're going to be pushed up that deep, so I want to see more wards from him. Solo laner needs more just in general, without a doubt. Mid laner did good, support did fine, and jungler did about as many wards as you could expect from him as well with how far he can roam. So I think it just might have been just a lack of awareness. That might have been the biggest thing because the ward count was there. They even had more wards than the other team, but
right.
I don't know. It's just I feel like grouping and not letting yourself slink away into the, oh, I'm behind, I need to get this wave mindset, because you can always turtle up. Turtling up is a valid and very effective strategy, especially if you're behind this deep. And if you can turtle up long enough to catch back up, and both final builds online for every team, it's an even fight, no matter who has the more gold.
Right.
So I feel like that might be the game plan for this next game.
Yeah, now, final question here. We're going to reset the stream after we finish this analysis, so stay tuned. It shouldn't be down for more than a few seconds. Final question, though. Are there any bans that you want to see come out for this 0 to 100 team going into game 2?
I feel as though Cleo might be worth a ban. Her kit's pretty strong, and more than enough times, Jungle Difference was able to get really good damage, if not just kills, from hiding in walls. I feel like that in and of itself is worth a ban. Maybe even the Sylvanas pick too, because like we said before the game even started, and then how the game ended up starting, the invade on blue buff from Sylvanas, and that just kept compounding into worse and worse situations for the KA. I feel like those might be two good bans. Everybody else on the team did well too. Not saying they didn't. The Chernobog definitely put in work, so they might want to potentially look in banning him too. But I think the Cleo and the Sylvanas might be worth the bans. Chernobog you can sort of deal with, especially if you make it to endgame and you have a good team fight. But the other two, it's really, really tough.
Yeah, just looking at the stat line, I feel like you gotta ban the Sylvanas going forward.
Yeah.
The best kill participation on that team, being involved in 20 of their 27 kills, so exactly 66%. Wait, no, that's not right.
It would be almost
Whatever.
75.
Yeah, as soon as I said it, I knew my math was off. So
we're close. We're close.
Yeah, still more than half. That's really the takeaway here. More than half. But yeah, I think I agree wholeheartedly. I think the Cleo would be worth looking to ban that, and then looking at banning the Sylvanas. And with that, I think we're gonna restart the stream, and we'll be right back.
Awesome.